They say you can't go back to the past, that once you've moved on, you should never look back. I get it. Even though I've never been one to long for those days gone by, I do get nostalgic about some memories. But it can be a slippery slope, can't it? There are memories our mind has simply put away because they're too painful. It's simply been easier to leave them buried in the back of our mind. But then, as life would have it, something comes up that stirs those memories. You go to a place you haven't been to in years, or you see someone you'd forgotten all about, and memories you'd buried deep within float to the surface. Often it is the little inconsequential things like the name of your favorite restaurant you went to all the time, or that funky place you totally had forgotten about, and then all of a sudden you're thinking about that conversation, and the words you never wanted to remember come flooding back. And then, somehow, you realize that it isn't the same. It no longer holds any power over you. In fact, after all this time, you can look at that place and the heartache it resembles and be grateful for all of it, because it's at the core of who you are today. You realize that if you had skipped that season of your life, you'd be an entirely different person, and that you know that isn't something you'd want. That happened to me this week. I went back to a place where life shifted for me, the place where the one thing I thought I'd wanted for years slipped away. What I couldn't know then was that God was helping me to let go of the very thing that was holding me back from becoming the person He created me to be, the person I was longing to be but didn't have the courage to take the necessary steps to grow into. God had much bigger plans for me, and I was clinging to the things that were familiar, even if they weren't necessarily healthy. He allowed a chain of events to happen that I couldn't control, and I ended up making choices that I wouldn't have made otherwise. God was helping me to connect the dots when I wasn't able to see the big picture on my own. He was helping me to take the next right step, even when I wasn't asking Him to. It was painful and it was frightening to keep moving forward on my own. Looking back, I now know that God was blessing me even though it didn't feel like a blessing. And that is what I want to talk about today in this episode 93, titled Trusting Jesus When a Blessing Doesn't Feel Like a Blessing. Welcome to Longing for More, where Christians come to strengthen their faith, revive their soul, and learn to live their lives with a sense of fulfillment and peace. Listen each week to learn how to incorporate your faith into your daily activities, stop wandering through life feeling empty and unfulfilled, and begin to live your more. Let's get started. Fast forward 3.5 decades. A beautiful Christian woman with a dream of her own hosted a conference for Christian podcasters in that very city where that painful memory lay buried. It was an inaugural event, and a mutual friend encouraged me to go. At first, I didn't think it was for me, but once again, God had a different plan. I had no idea, but He was getting ready for me to let go of some other things that were holding me back, and after much prayer and consideration, it was clear that He wanted me at that event. Ironically, the event was within miles of that very place where my life had begun to shift all those years ago. So I went back again. None of it looked the same, but it did open memories I'd long forgotten about. I thought of people I hadn't recalled for decades. After all those years, I was finally ready to look at that season from a perspective of the good that had come from it. I got to see that younger version of me from a new perspective, and I realized the courage that she had to move thousands of miles to take a job in the heart of the fastest growing city in America. It reminded me of the lessons I learned and the person I was becoming, even then. It is so cool that now, all these years later, God used the same location to show me that it is time again to make some big changes, that it's time to have the courage to let go of the things that are holding me back from becoming the person He wants me to become at this stage in my life. I found a community in that conference of people who truly get my mission and not only tolerate it, but embrace it. People who will actively help me go after the dreams that have been on my heart forever, and the ones I was even surprised I had. God does that, you know. He leads us through this maze of life and uses the various stages, seasons, even moments to create this series of dots that we don't realize all fit together until much later. It isn't until the dots are all connected that we see that He was blessing us even when we didn't feel like it. And if we don't look back, we may not ever realize that. Where are you feeling pushed or pulled to a place that you are hesitant to go? What crazy things are happening in your life that don't make any sense? Do you have memories from the past that you have buried that may have actually been a step towards who you were meant to become, and that it's time to finally let go of the hurt or even the people who are holding you back from moving forward to that future you? If so, I encourage you to trust Jesus. Let go of that fear and self-doubt and know that He is walking with you and, in fact, may be carrying you to the next stage of life that may be a true blessing. That's what He did for me. After returning home from that adventure in Texas all those years ago, I finished my goal of getting a college degree. I started a beautiful family and began a career as a public servant. A really great career. It was a great life, but it too was a staging area that was preparing me for the true calling that God has on my life. The calling to help you become the person you were created to be, to help you see the places where you can trust Jesus and see the blessings that He has given you while they didn't feel like blessings. You see, He wants to be the star of your life. He wants you to know Him and to trust Him, even in the seasons of life where it hurts, especially in the seasons of life where it hurts. And He brings people into our lives to help us through those seasons. And then, when it's time to celebrate the joys that come, He uses those people to help us do that too. People come and people go, and they all have a purpose. Some bring us joy, others sorrows, but all help us see Jesus and His love more clearly if we will let them. So today, I am grateful for the opportunity to go back and look at a season of my life I had tucked away, to be able to take it out again and see the beauty in the pain and the, quote, mistakes, and appreciate them for what they were, lessons, and opportunities to grow. Fortunately, I didn't go through all that season alone. Even though it felt like it at times, Jesus was always with me, and through many of the times, He gave me someone to walk the journey with me. I see that season with such a different perspective than I did all those years ago. Every person in that season brought me a lesson or simply was there to bring me a smile. Some of their names I remember, but many I don't. Part of me would have loved to reconnect with them while I was back this last week, but alas, it wasn't to be. What is important is that I reconnected to me and the girl who grew into that young woman that year. The lessons she learned in that distant, scary city still serve me today and make me a better wife, mother, coach, and mentor. I love how God brought this story full circle and took me back to the place I'd hidden in my heart for so long to realize that the story really began there and is in reality beginning all over again from the same jumping off point. Only this time, I'm starting a different kind of family, a community of believers who long to incorporate their walk with Jesus in their day-to-day life, that are ready to lock arms and take a step, the step that will help them know Him better and live the life of purpose and meaning that they were created for, a life of fulfillment and peace that only comes with connecting with Jesus on a deeper level than we've ever known, truly to live your more. I'm excited to embrace a whole new community of people who love Jesus and will walk with me in this next phase that seems exciting and scary all at once. To see the shift that is coming and to know that it will all be okay. That I can trust Jesus in this blessing, even though the journey has been painful and hasn't really felt like a blessing at points. That is, until now. If you know someone who needs to hear this message, please share it with them so that they too can find the blessings in their struggle. If you were encouraged by this message and are interested in learning more about what I do, please go to my website, VonaJohnson.com. That's VonaJohnson.com. While you are there, sign up for my newsletter that gives you the inside information about the show and notifies you when the shows are released. I really want to thank you for stopping by today. I know that your time is valuable